All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. I call this regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order. Everyone could join me for the pledge. Hey, Marcia. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do we have any members of the public that would like to give comment? As usual. We move on to communication and correspondence received. However, none received. We move on to the approval of minutes from previous meetings.
I make a motion to approve the June 12th regular meeting minutes as distributed to the team and included in your booklet.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any discussion on the meeting, on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. Now we move on to the report of the first selectman. Sir.
Thank you, sir. I got a few things I wanted to go over with you. We had a conversation with Moody's. They asked to have the conversation. We had the treasurer, CFO, myself, the Board of Ed chair, Colette, and a couple other people on in case there were any questions. We had a very good discussion with Moody's. They came out 2 days later. They have upgraded Brookfield from AA2 with a negative outlook to just simply AA2. That's a good thing because we're going to be borrowing some money in the future. What's interesting is when Moody's rated us AA1 about 7 years ago, we had about an 8% unassigned general fund balance. Now Moody's is saying that to get an AA1, they want to see a 15% balance. And they're also saying that the average town with an AA1 in Connecticut has a 14% balance. We're checking that because I think that number is high. I don't think there are that many towns who have 14, 15% balances. The second thing on this is before we even had the meeting with Moody's, our financial advisor told us, listen, they are not going to upgrade you to like AA1 unless you purchase their rating service. Now, the last time we did the rating, we hired S&P for two reasons. One, they were less expensive than Moody's, and two, S&P hadn't rated us in depth in many years. So our financial advisor said, don't expect a full upgrade without going through the entire process. Okay, it's the way it works. But at least they took the negative outlook, which is very important. And I think most investors look to Moody's when it comes to municipal debt. It's a little stronger rating agency, and they have more confidence in it. We have a senior housing in town, Brookfield Quarry. It's off of Laurel Hill Road. We have the small cities grants where residents can come to us, and for a 0% loan, they can get their furnace fixed, their roof fixed, leaks, things like that. We have not found anyone who qualified under the program in about 6 months. There are income requirements. You can't be underwater on your house. You have to have some equity in it. So we've been frustrated by that, even though we've been doing a fair bit of advertising. So what Lisa Lowe, the administrator of the Small Cities Grants, did was come to me and say, hey, occasionally we can apply to the state, and we have about $300,000 left that's available in this fund. And get the state to agree that we can use it for Brooks Quarry. Brooks Quarry needs a lot of work. It really does. They just started a 401c3 to try to raise money for it. As you know, it's income limited for the people who live there, so the income generated does not barely cover the cost of operating it, and basically has no money to improve, update kitchens, update the infrastructure. Last year, the town did pitch in. No, 2 years ago, the town pitched in, and we helped them pave their parking lot, which was just unbelievable. It had been patched like 50 times. The state just came back to us 2 days ago and said no. And we'll keep on trying, but I thought you guys want to be aware of that. On our streetscape.
Are those rented or owned units?
They're rentals. Yeah, they're all rentals. For phase 4, we're applying. The cost will be about $2.4 million. We're applying for a grant through WestCog. We've been working on it about 6 months. I think I mentioned to this to you before. It's a competitive grant, so we go up against other grants within WestCog, and then we go up against other COGs in the state. We were the #1 choice of WestCog for this $2.4 million project that will go from the Four Corners up to Newberry Village with the streetscape. We have to have our final application into the state by August 14th. It is looked on much more favorably if we have the town portion of the funding locked in. They say, okay, they're serious. So we are going to be asking the Board of Selectmen approved and sent to you today, asking for an appropriation of $480,000 for the town portion of the streetscape. It is possible we will not get the full grant, and we'll have to look at it then and see where we can get other funding. But it's looked on much more favorably if we actually have the town committee, the town funds committed. On phase 2, I think if everybody's been through downtown, the town center, we're building it right now. We're about 4 or 5 days behind, primarily because we are hitting ledge. Luckily, the ledge is sandstone, so that's pretty easy to jackhammer out. So it's holding us up a little bit. There is contingency in there. We're still on target for budget and spending, and we are still on target for finishing this in September. The part of this that I really like is this will be softening our downtown because we're going to be putting in quite a few plants and trees along Federal Road as you drive in from the north. It's going to really soften it up. It's going to, I think, make it a much more attractive downtown. Legal notices, this is going to be a problem. The Penny Saver has gone out of business. They've stopped publishing. That's where we put all our legal notices at incredibly low cost. Our only option right now is to go to the News Times. We're double checking the state statutes with our legal counsel, but it doesn't look like we're going to have any choice but to use the News Times. That could quintuple or even higher our costs for land use, town clerk, first selectman's office. So fair warning right now, that we're going to be over budget on this no matter what we do.
Does it have to be in a recognized publication?
Yes,
or?
it does. And it has to be one that is available in Brookfield. So, you go to the Newtown B, but virtually no one in Brookfield gets to Newtown B. I've talked to Steve Harding about this. Only about 10% of the families in Brookfield get the News Times. So it's really not a viable viaduct to put this information out.
Postcards?
Yeah, it would be cheaper to send postcards almost.
But does
then
that
we
meet
would
the
be sending.
requirement?
I'm sorry?
Does that
It is
meet the requirement?
State requirement.
Does that meet the requirement, sending postcards?
No, I do not believe it does. We'd have to check. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make all our announcements smaller, tighter, cleaner, because it's, by inch in the News Times. So we'll keep you up to date where we are on that, and if there's any way to get around that.
Has anybody questioned that requirement? I mean, it's so old-fashioned at this point.
Yes, every legislative session, they question it, and the newspaper lobby is very strong. And they fight it tooth and nail, because it's one of their biggest streams of
It's a
income.
weak legislature, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The newspaper lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to
Those,
refashion it in some way or another.
Yeah. Yes.
Those tubes of coupons that show up in our driveway every week, who sends those out?
That's a different company. They
Could-
just dump them in your driveway.
Yeah.
Drives everybody crazy.
But is that a possibility?
I
mean,
don't
more
think
people
so.
would get that
We-
than the News Times, it might be
Yeah,
cheaper.
we're exploring different options, but most people take that. I know I do. And it hits the circular file even.
They do it with the penny
Right,
saver.
but
It doesn't
most
even
people-
get in- it
most
doesn't
people
even get
don't
into
get
the
the
house.
News Times,
Yeah.
so the information distribution would
Right.
probably be much the same.
Yeah, our job is to find a good distribution. It's not to make people read it.
Right.
So we're looking at every option we possibly can.
We just recently notified people on one of the Facebook
Yeah.
posts about where you can find it in the penny saver.
Yeah, and okay, so next thing is Jay Purcell has been working on something for a couple months, and we're looking to combine our dispatch with New Milford. The primary goal is to save money. We know that the state is pushing for regionalization of various services, GIS, land use, tax collector, tax assessor. Some of them might work, some of them might not. but we do not want to be forced into a marriage with another community that we would not want to be married to in dispatch. So it seems to make sense that New Milford and Brookfield form a regional dispatch. We have notified the unions involved that this is something we're looking at, and I think we can make it happen, and it would save some money. Second thing on the police, the Lake Lillonona Patrol. They've been keeping their boats way up in New Milford. This year we finally got a dock, fueling station, fueling tanks, and pumps put in at Lillonona Shores, which is right next to the Route 133 bridge to Bridgewater. It's directly across from the launch ramp for individuals, for the public. It's working out really, really well. It takes our officers 1/10 the time to get there. We'll have faster reaction times because most of our officers on the Marine Patrol live in Brookfield or the surrounding area, and it's working out really well. And it also gives us a presence. We have had difficulty in the past, and I can't guarantee this, but Squance Pond last Saturday morning, I was up at 6:30 in the morning and I was just listening to the local radio. Squance Pond was closed at 6:30 a.m. to any new traffic. They get an amazing amount of people, and we had some run over from them looking for a place to go swim and take their kids. There's no swimming at Lillonona Shores, so we have had to send our police down there to say, hey, you can't swim, but because of the remoteness and the inaccessibility of it, we can't send one officer by himself. We have to send 2 officers, 2 cars, walk down there. So with them already stationed there, and we widen the road and put the gravel on the road, it's much more visible, much more easier to manage that. So that's working really well. And the Lake Lillonona Authority and John Puglisi, who is the captain of he's the chief of the Lake Lillonona Patrol. He's our major, is very, very pleased with it. Our new boat for Candlewood is coming in the next few weeks. I would expect you'll be getting an invite to go out and take a ride in it. I think it's going to be really nice. We're also going to be cross-training both the center company and our police department on operating that boat. In case somebody from Candlewood is not available to operate the boat, we will have other qualified operators. So these guys can just go out, get on the boat, and go out. So on the town side, there's a new strip shopping mall across from the BMW dealership. They have 2 rentals that they signed. One will be the Windorama. That's a 49 Federal now, and it looks like a yoga space with a cafe may go in there. And we're going to get another restaurant, and it's your favorite. It's Italian, Sean.
We need
Right.
more.
So there has been rumors around town that it's very hard to rent commercial space and nobody wants it. That's just simply not true. That it is renting. It is renting.
Was Windorama in Brookfield? Was it on the Brookfield line before? Or is it
Yeah.
just moving?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Brookfield property line goes right through the car wash down on Federal Road. You know where the car wash is?
Right.
So everything north of
Yeah.
that is in Brookfield.
Oh.
It's a little weird. You think it's Danbury, but it's not. And then, just one last update. As you know, a car went off of Federal Road across the Still River Greenway and into the woods. After further investigation, it's found that the individual driving that car is probably going to be charged with driving under the influence. We have gone to the state, to the local DOT, Division 5, and asked them to put up a guardrail. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. They have demurred on doing that, but what they are willing to do at this point in time, they will put up the delineator stakes and also a rumble strip. So both people on the greenway and driving their cars will get an audible warning. I personally don't think that's gonna protect us, so we're gonna take this step by step. We have a very good working relationship with them. They do not like it if I go past them to the commissioner, but I'm more than willing to do that. I've done it before. We have to look at this a little more carefully, in my opinion. Our chief of police believes that the delineator strips and the rumble strip are going to be enough to protect our residents. He believes that the accident that occurred was obviously a very one-off kind of thing, because it's not a real steep, it's not a real hard curve. It's a slow moving curve all the way around. But still, in sections, it's 15 feet from the Still River Greenway. So we can't ask DUIs not to drive on Federal Road to protect people. So we'll continue to keep you up to date on it. And that's pretty much it for the first selectman's report.
Questions, comments, concerns for the first selectman? No? Okay. Colette, do you have any reason that we'd want to move the Board of Ed financials up?
I am here. We actually have no Board of Financials,
Okay.
Board of Ed financials this time because we
Okay.
did not meet as a finance committee on it.
Got it. Okay. All right then. Move on to report of the finance director. Welcome back, Marcia.
Thank you very much. The revenue and expenditures, no change from last time. And I have to say that we're a little overwhelmed. We haven't been fully staffed since April with vacations and sick time and things. But the tax collectors, the tax collections will be significantly over in excess of budget, which is good for revenue. All grants that we were expecting have been received. The expenditures, at this time, all departments are in good shape. They're all under budget. There's nothing that's big that's under budget other than health insurance, which we've discussed in the past. And right now, there looks like small underages in every department. And if they're using purchase orders properly, that should hold. There's some departments that we're worried might be coming in with things that aren't on purchase orders, but still, we should be in good shape. Other information, Issa, our accounting and payroll clerk, has retired. And we have ads out that she has sick time, that she's not sick time, vacation time and personal time that she's being paid for. We have a temp in now just because we didn't want to fall behind. I've done payroll for the last 3 months, that we didn't want to fall behind because and not get other stuff done. So we temp started this week to try and help ease some of the burden. We had our first interview today, but the applications don't close until Monday to try and fill that position. And as far as filling it, that I think our first criteria is how the person will fit into the culture. That try to say this politely, we don't want somebody that is watching the clock saying, oh, or saying, no, that's not my job. That we want the culture is more important than any experience. And Board of Ed just hired somebody in a similar position with no experience, and it's working out very well just because it's easy enough to train somebody.
Is that a union or non-union?
Union.
Union. Does it have to be filled by union?
Yes.
No, as a joint.
Yes. We are in the process of closing 2019, so we've asked that all invoices be to us for July 31st. We talked in advance about what encumbrances will stay open. We still have to close the encumbrances that we didn't talk about. We are in the process of opening 2020 fiscal year to that end. On Friday of next week is Finance Friday. That you're welcome to attend if you'd like. That we are. Some departments struggle, and they've also had their own little separate systems. We want to get everything into Munis. We want them to be using Munis as their tool and not something off to the side, and Munis is just a necessary evil. So to that end, we're preparing to, on some of them, we're preparing to go through and start with, let's take that budget worksheet and let's go through what purchase orders we need, what bids we need, what quotes we need, and just work with them in that level of detail. We've got some that have told us that they can't do purchase orders because the people in their department haven't been trained or don't have they don't have rights to Munis, so Dan from IT is going to be there with us. Some of them we've already given them rights. There's one department we're training separately tomorrow, so that everyone can get on. That we're having written instructions for how to do all the different tasks that they would need to do, what reports to pull to monitor. So that is next Friday. That
What kind of jokes are you going to tell?
accounting jokes. Those are the
that
best.
was an oxymoron.
You have net income. Just kidding. You're actually at a loss. What's the?
Good one there, Sean.
You're going to have to show up to the jokes and maybe
a lot of
we,
innuendos with the word assets.
Good one.
and accounting games that I'm sure we'll be counting beans that and see who gets the closest. But anything to get them there, food and non-alcoholic beverages. That and who knows what our turnout will be. But we went to all the department heads this morning. That we want to work on some policies that I've started working on, but I need to get them out to Steve and then to the boards. Fund balance being one of the biggest policies that and how we get to where do we want to be and how we get there. The GFOA has a little worksheet on what percent you might want to have for fund balance, and to be honest, their worksheet is geared so it's rare that it's going to be under 16%. That just from having former clients use it, but I've worked through that. A few months ago, so I'll have to go back to that now. I learn more every month. That we want a debt service policy and an encumbrance policy. The auditors had asked for the encumbrance policy when they come back and to do this year's audit.
I think currently there's a debt service guideline, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you call it a policy, but
We want to tighten it up and get a little more meat to it, right? We do have a rough policy, but I don't think it's
More of a
detailed
guideline.
enough to
Yeah.
meet the requirements of either the boards or the town or the rating agencies,
So would we
because they look at those
We'd
things.
want to supersede that
Yeah.
guideline, right, with an actual policy. That's what you're.
Yes.
That's what we're
Yes,
thinking.
that's our goal.
And to pull other things into it, loans and leases, and compensated absences. That's a way that
For debt service?
it's all part of debt. That if you look at the town of Monroe, for example, they are about the same size that we are. Compensated absences, that's accrued vacation, sick time, and other time that you would pay out. I think that theirs is $7-8 million. That we don't want that to happen. And we have nothing to stop it now to say that that somebody, and I always pick on the Board of Ed. Sorry, that but not this Board of Ed, but another Board of Ed might go in and say, hey, we can't give you a raise, but we can give you an extra 4 weeks off. That or whatever, and that's not controlled in the budget. So we need to control it someplace.
That's not happened. We don't believe it will happen.
it's
We
not.
have very responsible people working on our boards, but it's good to address as a team.
I used to
Yeah.
talk about that before I even heard of Brookfield, so it has nothing to do with Brookfield.
Good.
The auditors, they finished up their preliminary work today. That they've been here for the last 3 days. So far, so good. That they are coming back on August 26th. They've got 3 weeks scheduled. They're hoping that they won't be here for 3 weeks. Last year, that they never came out for preliminary work. They did everything in the field work a few months ago. And finally, I think that's finally, that we're upgrading to Munis on August 10th. We keep threatening to upgrade. We were going to do it in the fall, and I wasn't ready because I didn't have a handle on anything. Then we were going to do it in the spring, and I forgot why that slipped again. But August 10th is now the date. The reason we have to upgrade is W-2s, that we need to be able to produce the W-2s, and this is the last year that that our program will be supported, our version will be supported. So we could slip a little bit longer, but not much
Not a
after
good
that.
idea.
We budgeted for that?
Pardon me?
We budgeted for this upgrade in
Yes,
1920 year?
yes.
How long does it take?
That's a very good question. That we had it scheduled when we were going to do it in April. We had it scheduled over the weekend, but there are a lot of things that need to be done before then to make sure we've got balances, make sure we've got things closed down, and
That's not going to interfere or be too close to field work on August 26th? We're not going to blow up any databases before then?
we're hoping that no databases are blown up at all. That but there will be a backup, and
You're giving me the vapors here.
yes, yes. But these are the kind of questions why we didn't do it in the fall. But and then Ricky had asked if we would look at the budget transfers, and so I'm not particularly thrilled with the form that I had developed, and so I'm going to try and do one that shows what Ricky wants, what I want, and come back to you with.
It's the reporting committee. It's the reporting committee.
Yeah.
Not just me.
Not just you, but
But you're the only one on that
Yep,
committee, right?
that is true.
the reporting committee.
That's what Ricky stands for.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah. So that we can fit everything into one form, a little more concise, a little, when we do these mass transfers from one department to another, a little less time consuming. So. Any questions?
There was just one thing right at the beginning when you talked about tax collections being ahead, and you said it might affect collectability in 2020. Just wondering why that is.
So because she's collected so much more, that several $100,000 more than the budget, that there's not a lot out there to collect. And so every time she just says, "Oh, we did really great at collecting, but I'm not sure that I've got more that I can collect for next year." That because it's a
so there's a kind of informal number representing back taxes every
Correct.
year, and we've plundered that.
correct.
We've enhanced our enforcement and collections by hiring a marshal to chase down these debts, and it has been much more successful than we originally envisioned.
I see. Okay.
We've gotten over $300,000 in back taxes paid. So that means the whole list is going down. And we went after the biggest first, 25, 30, 40, 50,000. We've collected most of that. And now we're going to be going after the 2,000, the 3,000. So there's just not as much to collect. So
it's mainly residents or businesses? Or?
Both, but mostly businesses.
Okay.
Mostly businesses. A lot of personal property tax
Yeah.
that has been avoided.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're very happy with that. No one wants to go there. It's not fun to have a marshal show up at your place of business, but some people have been not paying their taxes for 10, 12, 15 years, and that's not fair to the residents and the other businesses in this town. It's just not fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. So for the meeting in August, that we should have much better numbers, preliminary numbers for the end of the year, and we should by that time be working on pulling them together into statements.
Great. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
All right, do our committees have anything to report? Okay.
Nothing from the reporting committee.
Bylaws? Okay. All right, no matters of old business on there. New business, we have a couple items. I move to approve the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen to fund the request of the Board of Education for a special appropriation of $84,490 to fund an additional kindergarten teacher for the 2019-2020 school year based on the most recent demographic results.
I second.
Okay. Now we open the floor for discussion. Colette, is there any color you wanted to add to the request, please?
Sure. And that way.
There you go.
Have
There
this
should be enough to
section.
go around.
Yeah, I think so.
These numbers are accurate as of this morning. If Marcia and John, if you want some, there's enough to go around for you as well.
Sorry.
Pass it down to Diane so she.
Yeah,
Sure,
I said I included one for Diane as well.
There you go. Probably in the sheet.
So I broke it down a few different ways, based on the last 5 school years. And this is really just to show how we predict how many kindergartners we're going to have. Because it's tough because we don't have a class coming up. It's not like first grade or second grade that we know what students we had prior to that. So we usually base it on the Malone and McBroom projections. Their most recent update was June of last year, June of 2018, and that was in preparation for the new school project. And as you can see by the number of students starting each year, now this isn't our official enrollment number, which we get and post from October to every October, but this is the actual number of students starting each year. We're usually right on target, give or take a few, with our Malone and McBroom projections. This year, they projected 147, and as you can see, as of now, we have 160 registered. We have others that have registration packets out, 11 of those that we are we are absolutely confident that they will be returning. Either they have siblings in the district, they have made appointments to turn in the paperwork, they are going through with the pre-K program, one or the other. So we're confident about those. So that puts us at 171 students. Now, since I did this report at the Board of Selectmen meeting about a week and a half ago, we have actually had 2 new inquiries and requests for packets as well. So that may be even another potentially 2 students, or 173. But if there were 171 students in 8 classes, that would be 21.4 students. Now, of course, you can't have a 0.4 student, so that would be 5 classes of 21 students and 3 classes of 22 students, unless we get those other 2, in which case that flip-flop. With 9 classes, though, we're down to a very reasonable 19 or 20 if we get those extra 2 students per class, which is within our board guidelines, which are 17 to 20 students. Our target is 19. So we came out of the blue, so we're just asking for the appropriation of $84,490 to fund that additional kindergarten teacher.
What does that do for first grade next year?
We'll need an additional first grade teacher as well, but we are better able to build it within our budget, starting at our budget construction.
Well, though, if this little bubble class goes up, you might need 1 less kindergarten teacher next year.
Perhaps,
You just don't know.
But if we look at the Malone and McBroom projections, they actually predicted a bubble class for next year. They're
Really?
predicting 181 students next year because of the uptick in births in 2015. So they go by
a good year.
birth rates. It was a good year. They go by
Big
birth
storm or
rates
something?
within, within the town. Now, we are requesting, or we are looking to see if they do another deep dive into the development, into the demographics, into the birth rates, because we absolutely need to depend upon these enrollment figures for the new school project. So that has just been a discussion that's taken place over the last 2 weeks, really. It needs to go now from the MBC because it is a requisition in regards to this school project. In addition to, I just had to mention, in addition to these funds that we are requesting, we are going to have some additional costs associated with this as well. There's going to be science kit supplies that we'll have to get for that, which is going to total about $5,000. And also, we have right now 0.6 of an FTE. Is that right? It might be. No. 0.6 of an FTE of both PE and art that we're going to probably have to increase to 0.7 of an FTE because we literally have another class of kindergartners. So all told, that's going to be about another additional $20,000 that Board of Ed is going to find some place to absorb and, make strategic reductions and allocations as we can, because that's an absolute necessity for this increase in students.
If I can just say one thing here, you know, all this, and I'm not an expert on this, but it's clear to me that having 19 kids in a class versus 22 kids in a class is a big difference for teachers, especially with kids coming in for the first time. That seems an outrageous amount of kids to me.
The hard research is out there that smaller class sizes are, and you've all heard me say this, smaller class sizes are directly related to student success, but it's especially critical in kindergarten and first grade.
believe it.
That's where the smaller classes make the largest difference.
Now, this is the type of thing I think that we've always said that the board would support if it came along.
Where's the 85,000 coming from for the appropriation?
Is it 60 plus benefits?
No. Where like what's gonna fund that?
So for right now, it would come from the general fund, I think, unless we can find it in the budget throughout the year and transfer it. Or if they can find it in their budget, in the Board of Ed budget, right?
I mean, I strongly support having the extra teacher, but we're only 2 weeks into the budget, so we know we have more money coming in for the grant
Mhm.
than expected that was previously budgeted, and we also have that 130,000
Mhm.
that we have aside for right now from the teachers' pensions.
So-
I hate to dip into the general fund for that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it can be.
Technically, Marcia, why don't you run through?
We would prefer not to dip into the general fund because we don't want to do additional appropriations. We just look better if we can stick within our budget. So I would say we should transfer from the 130 that was previously discussed as, if you want to do it, previously discussed as teachers' pension that we no longer have to pay. Take the money from there and transfer it to the Board of Ed.
What about the excess from the grant?
So that would be revenue, and in order to take that, we could show that it has no effect on the bottom line, but it would still be considered an additional appropriation for the budget, which again, we want to try not to do that because we want to show that we can, one of the things that the bonding companies want to see is that we can work within our budget. So it would, of the two, it really wouldn't make a difference to us. It's all this, it's to us, it's all the same, but to be able to say that we didn't do any additional
Yeah.
appropriations, we would be better.
Okay. And the way to do that would be to take out of the 130 for the.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Is that something to designate now? Where that comes from?
I think you want to designate, yes, where it's coming from.
There's a completely separate budget line item, so we probably should state that we're going to move 84 and change.
What's the line item? Teacher's pension?
Teacher's
Right.
But it
pension.
was still on the Board of Ed side, wasn't it?
It was there, but it wasn't in the Board of Ed budget per se. All right. Yep. All right. I will amend the motion that I made as follows. I move to approve the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen to fund the request of the Board of Education for a special appropriation of $84,490 to come from the Teachers' Pension Fund budget line item to fund an additional kindergarten teacher for the 2019-2020 school year based on the most recent demographic results.
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion on the matter? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, call the motion to a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Colette, for
Very
the
much
additional
appreciate
color.
it.
Appreciate it. You get all that, Diane? You good? Okay. All right. So this next item, there's just a typo on the agenda. This was for Phase 3. That's what I had communicated to Eileen, so I apologize for that. It's actually Phase 4.
Yeah.
All right. This is a long motion.
But you don't have to read the entire resolution, so what we're
Just-
going to
just
have
the
to
motion,
do.
or what?
Well, first, the Board of Selectmen has to approve it.
Okay.
We're having a special meeting tomorrow. At our board meeting, we had
Oh,
a
I thought you already
discussion,
had. I apologize.
but we did
Okay.
not have the detail needed to make the formal resolution, and our bond counsel was on vacation. So, tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen is going to meet. We're going to forward this to the Board of Finance for action, and with a suggested date of, I'm not sure the date for town meeting, so that we can get this in by August 14th.
Yeah, this was to discuss and
Yeah, this is
find
to
a special
discuss.
meeting date.
Right.
That was it. There was no actual business for this one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This threw me off.
Yeah. Well, we got this today and just wanted you guys to have a
Okay.
copy of it.
Got
So
it.
what we'll be doing, just so people are aware, residents, it's a $2.4 million project. You have to fund at least 20% with town funds. We would appropriate $480,000 for Phase 4, and it gives us a much stronger argument when we go up against other COGs, because the people who make these recommendations, and I've seen this dozens of times where towns put in a project and never fund their portion of it. So the project is approved and sits there for 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 years. If we funded it, they know we're ready to go with it, and so they look much more favorably on that.
So does that become a line item on next year's budget?
That would
then?
become a borrowing, yeah, in the capital,
Okay.
right.
Which we've done
Long-term
in the
capital
last-
project, yeah.
Okay.
And the 480,000 comes from.
Borrowing.
Okay.
We would anticipate, because it's a
Yeah.
capital project and it will
Oh,
last
yeah,
20
makes
years,
sense.
that we
Yeah.
would borrow it.
Yeah.
That would be our suggestion.
Mhm.
And that's the total of the town's commitment to this phase?
Yep, at this point in time. It is possible that this grant, Westcog has named us number 1, but the whole state grants, there's a limited amount of money. They may come to us and say, okay, we're only gonna give you 1.5, not the 1,920 that we need. So then we'd have to go find other grants or other sources. But right now, we're basing it upon what our application is and the 20%.
All right, so the first selectman had asked us to look for a date in August. Our board meeting is on the 14th. It's too late?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we need 5 days
Mhm.
to post in the newspaper before the town meeting.
And you want to have the town meeting around what date?
We could do the town meeting on the 8th, but then we would have to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you would have to meet, oh, wait a minute, I'm looking at.
You have your next
I'm
meeting on
sorry,
the
I'm looking
15th?
I was looking at July, I apologize.
This is the next board
The
selectmen.
14th, so we,
Special meeting on the 15th.
if we could do it at before the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 5th, or we could do it between the 5th and the 7th for a town meeting, which would give us enough time. So any date we pick for the town meeting, we need at least 5 days before that. So let's say we pick the 7th of August. 1, 2, 3,
So when are you going to have your board of selectmen meeting?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. So you can do it anytime. I think the sooner the better.
Is anyone available the following week for a 5-minute meeting?
Anytime in the next 2 weeks would be really good.
You mean the second week?
The week of
Of
the
August?
15th? No, the week of the 15th.
Next week.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
What works for you?
Plan.
Any?
Wednesday.
Doesn't matter.
Wednesday's fine.
Wednesday?
It's August 14th?
July 17th.
Oh, you're talking this month. Okay.
Could do 17th
Yeah.
instead of-
Oh, no, I won't be here.
You won't be here? That whole week? Or just that day?
The whole week and the following week, at least. Second half, pretty much.
When's the Vorsitz back from vacation?
31st.
The first might work.
Maybe the 31st.
Does that give you time?
31st should be good for us. Let me just double check. Yes, the 31st will work because then we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boy, that's cutting it tight.
Yeah, it is.
That's cutting it real tight.
Doesn't necessarily have to be on a Wednesday. Could be on the 30th.
Well, if you do it on Wednesday, we get it to them on Thursday. They put it in the paper on Friday. That is, that'll just give us one extra day in case they don't get it in until Saturday. That's a little tight. If we could do it in July, it would be.
Could we do it on the 29th? Are you back that whole week?
Yeah.
Could we do it on Monday the
Schedule will be back
29th
that
instead?
week.
All right,
Yeah.
Monday the 29th,
Gives you a
yeah?
couple
Yeah, that
extra
would work.
days.
Yeah, that would give us a couple extra days. That works.
All right then, so be it. And we will notice that in the next couple days after you have your meeting and we get a proposal and we have language we can put in there. We'll get that out
Right.
with the time and everything like that. And
At 7
location,
p.m.?
please.
7 or 7:30?
Does anybody care? We can do 7.
7 is good.
Okay.
All right, location TBD. All right. Other items to come before the board, I believe. We would like to add an executive session to discuss some real estate matters. Okay. All those in favor of entering into executive session? All right.
Well, first,
Yeah.
you add the agenda item,
Yeah.
get a second, and then.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor of entering into an executive session to discuss real estate matters indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. We'll move into executive session. We can go into that room as long as it's not locked. It's storage, is that what it says? So it is locked. Is it locked?
Guys, if no one's